Okay, as always, let's just make a nice gentle start. So stand comfortably and start with this little self massage exercise, rubbing your hand fingers together to warm them up a little bit, sensitize them, and then lightly tapping over your face with the pads of your fingers. Leave your jaw a little bit loose and change into the palms of your hands, working up over your head and down to your neck. And then one shoulder. See if you can feel the muscles vibrating underneath your hand as you strike, and your arm, going down the inside of your arm and up the outside. And then the side again, just feel the muscles vibrating. So just let your attention come slowly into your body, lower part of your back, one or with both hands, whichever is more comfortable for you. Quite light over there and around, back, out towards your hips, going around your hips. And then down the outside of your legs, up the inside. Light again when you come to your belly. And then onto the upper part of the chin. Excuse me. And then just trying to keep that sensible awareness that starts to develop, standing with your feet hip width apart and turning in the middle of your body. So that area between your hips and your waist. Just try and have a little think about your posture. Any changes that you make should be done. Very slowly, very carefully. Something to move towards. So, feet are directly below your hips. So your hips are supported. That means the hips are more likely to support your upper body. Toes pointing forwards, or maybe just a slight turn out, nothing too much. Try and have your weight a little bit forwards. So just put more of your weight in the front half of your feet and let the hips settle back a little bit so that it feels like you're sitting down into your legs. The combination brings you more into line with the pull of gravity and allows your center of gravity to drop, rooting down. And the root foundation for the movement is the first thing that we would look to establish, building posture, building our movements up from that point. Feeling that your legs are able to continue to support and to sort of transmit your weight downwards. Trying to get away from the idea that we have to somehow strain to hold ourselves upright. So there's a shift of perspective here. Paying more attention to feet, legs, lower part of the body in general. We also want to feel that our backs are supporting the front of our body. So a slight feeling in your belly, solar plexus, ribs and shoulders, of them hanging just a little bit from your spine, the back. And as you settle into this posture, and particularly people with a bit more experience, just starting to feel this sense of being supported from within your body. Good sort of starting point for that awareness is to recognize that your skeleton will support you from inside. Gradually feeling that your muscles, particularly in the upper part of your body, lose some of their stiffness, their tightness, develop a softer, more elastic quality. That will start to leave you with a feeling of space in your body for movement, and the elasticity of the soft tissue is the sort of agent of that movement, if you like to think of it like that. This is a standard routine, you could call it. It's drawn of our attention into details of posture and movement, how they start to come together to give us this feel for the movement. And at the same time, as always, this settling of your thoughts, your attention into your body. A calmness can begin to develop from that. The quality of the movement aids that, the smoothness, the regularity of the rhythm of the movement that begins to develop. So 3 factors of our bodies, our minds, and our movement, our energy, beginning to come together into one whole. You may notice changes in things like the breathing, sense of circulation. It's not just the movement of the energy that we're interested in. There's the mechanics of the movement in joints and muscles. There's the movements of breathing, digestion, various metabolic processes. And these are qualities that we will continue to cultivate through the different movements. So just becoming aware of how those qualities develop, getting a glimpse of what they can feel like is always a good way to start a Tai Chi session. Raising your arms, not too high. Try not to tighten up in the big muscles of your arms and your shoulders. And let your hands drop. Put one foot forward to keep the width of the step. You can see the background between my legs there. Gently moving your weight from one foot to another. Feeling how your body turns in response to that. This dynamic of the weight moving is one of the principal energies that we work with in Tai Chi. It's also a very important movement for us in our daily lives. Every time we walk across the room, there's a weight transfer process taking place. Come back to this later in the session. Remember trying to keep that feeling of your center of gravity dropping, so as much as possible maintaining the root. And then with your other footprints. Trying to feel that the impetus and the rhythm of the movement come from your feet, the transfer of your weight, not from your shoulders or your arms. An overall feeling of just grounding yourself, centering yourself a little. And shake. These are all key principles, key aspects of the practice that we can return to in one way or another as we go through the different exercises. If we can find a way of standing that puts us more in line with the pull of gravity, that allows our center of gravity to drop, we start to bring about quite subtle changes in our posture, more stable, as I said before, more spacious, more room for movement, more settled generally. And that allows the natural functions of your body in all sorts of areas to begin to work as they've evolved to work. So one of the things that we're constantly trying to do in Tai Chi is to allow our body to settle, to cease to fight against the pull of gravity. Process we could label as releasing, softening, just ceasing that sense of struggle. So to look at that a bit more closely before we start the actual exercises, hold one hand out and make a fist and squeeze tightly. And what you'll find is that, what I find is your hand tightens up. You feel that tightening going up into your forearm, maybe as much of your, as far as your shoulder. It's quite uncomfortable. I could just drop my hand down so that I no longer have the fist, shake the hand out, that will feel okay. But I also lose the shape. So if you look at that space there, just where my finger curls under, rather than holding it tight, I go from the tight posture to a more open posture, as though I'm clasping something in my hand. And that change from the tight grip to the softer grip is how we experience releasing. So once again, feet parallel. Weight a little bit forwards, and just try and imagine that this area around lower back, hips and buttocks releases in that same way, and gently draws your hips back. So there's an overall feeling in your body of settling down as your hips drop, so your shoulders can drop. Muscles in your back beginning to release a little bit. Building a sense of confidence in our structure overall, our root, continue to support us. And using this intention to release as the flavor of the movement in Tai Chi. So letting your hips drop back a little bit more. The knees will bend a bit more, just be careful with that. And then feel yourself being gently pushed up. Try not to strain in the upward movement. And then at the top of the movement, your hips being drawn down again and then pushing. So we start to get a sort of wave-like movement flowing through the body, coming up from the ground, filling, particularly in the upper body, and then draining away. The very soft quality of almost being massaged within the body. Expanding and contracting. Just letting your breathing follow the movement in its most comfortable way without forcing a breathing pattern or method. And then bringing your hands around as though you're creating the ball in the palms of your hands, forearms. And as you push up, let the expansion in your body, push your elbows out, drawing your hands up, turn over, your hips sink, and your arms follow. Bottom of the movement, pushing up. Don't hurry the movement. And again, that feeling of your center of gravity easing downwards. And then expanding out of the root. And then contracting. Once again, just trying to establish, maintain a nice steady rhythm in the movement. And pulsing quality once again as though you're being very gently massaged, bathed in the movement, the energy. Main feature this exercise being the rooting down, the name of the movement, that sense of your center of gravity dropping through the ground. Also recognizing that the rooting down isn't just about being stable, important though that is, but as we sink down, we feel the legs being gently compressed until eventually they expand. So the act of rooting down also initiates the opposite movement, the push up, the expansion. Another very important energetic dynamic in the whole system. The body filling and energy. One more time. This time, let your hands drop down. Turn your fingers out. Once again, your arms being pushed away from your body. This time, more obviously swinging upwards as well. This is the wild goose. It may be that the image of the bird in flight offers some kind of quality, some kind of being. Begins to come into the movement. Bringing imagery into the movement, feeding the imagery into our intentions. One of the very common aspects of the way that we develop the movements in Tai Chi and the way that we engage body and mind together in these practices. Our bodies are naturally responsive to images in all sorts of ways. And we're just turning this into a very deliberate, conscious process. and then changing to parting the clouds, pushing up, elbows going out, drawing your fingers around in a nice smooth circle, not stretching, sense of opening, expanding, still feeling that we have space for movement at all times within the body. One more round. Going back to the first of these, rooting down, building into a simple sequence. So first of all, pushing up, bringing the ball up and then pressing down. Turning your fingers out, change into the wild goose. And then your hands drop down, change into parting. Trying not to rush change over. In fact, if anything, there's a sense of just gently slowing down as we reach point of change. Beginning to generate quality that we describe as a stillness within the movement, not a stillness instead of the movement. But again, that quality of stillness, of calmness, of spaciousness, beginning to pervade all of the movements. And with that calmness, just becoming a little bit more aware of subtle movements and changes within our bodies. So beginning to not just follow the external movement, but also have a sense of what's happening sometimes deep within the body. For instance, with this first one, we may find that our attention is drawn to our belly and our lower back and a feeling of expansion, contraction there, principally. As we start the wild goose, the same thing, but we feel that movement going up towards our solar plexus, our rib cage, and then we're parting the cloud, belly, solar plexus. That's just one example of how we might experience the internal changes within the movements. And gradually, we learn to bring the emphasis of our attention and our intentionality to these smaller movements within the body, not to exclude the external movements, but as a way of building them, a way of developing them from the inside out. When we bring an intentionality through memory, through understanding, through imagery and other ways to the movements, we can begin to just enhance the movement, because those smaller changes within the body are probably the ones that are more likely to be affected and cultivated through those intentional qualities. One more round. This time, At the end of the movement, let your hands drop down, feel the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, bringing your attention and your intention to one side, expanding upwards, pushing your arm up, wind your arm around and pull down. This is dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Switching your attention to the opposite side and the same thing. This is not to suggest that mind is totally controlling the movement. It's not mind over matter. Nor is it as simple as saying all we need to do is to think correctly and everything will be fine. Rather, this is recognizing the potential that exists where these three elements of mind, body, and energy come together. We will still experience very real physical barriers. Just be very gentle with those. Not assume that all we have to do is make the right thought and they'll disappear, because they won't. These are very important physical disciplines apart from anything else. Gradually just realizing the advantages of a more focused attention, more deliberate, informed intention. One more time. And then just stand in for a moment. So, not mind over matter, but rather a blending of these three aspects of Tai Chi, the three treasures of body, mind, and energy. And working with those to the benefit of all three, our minds benefit from that really close internal focusing. It really helps to develop that sense of internal space, of internal calmness. Our movements will benefit from that spaciousness, but will also begin to inform us. Is the space there? Our bodies will develop physically and become stronger in a very particular way, become more stable, and that awareness of what's happening in our body feeds back into the mind and so on. These three things should be seen as being like the three legs of a tripod, the camera on. All three legs are important and they support each other rather than one being dominant. So in this basic posture, weight a little bit forwards, hips dropping back, just trying to maintain this posture. The next two movements, not going up and down, but still aware that there is a downward movement of gravity through your body, and there is a response, an upward movement from your body. Bring your hands to your sides, just lightly touching the side of your hips with the inside of your hand or your arm. And from there, raising your arms, pressing up just a little bit above your head. And coming back, take your time. Resting your hands back against your hips. Lifting again, pushing out sideways, and turn in the middle of your body. So that redirects your arms. And then bringing your hands back, bringing your attention back to the center. On the side, no direction. And back. And then pushing out sideways. This is pushing in forward direction. So this draws our attention once again to that central part. It's that part of the body that we feel we want to drop towards the ground. It's that part of the body that makes that connection to the root and that we expand out from, draw back into. And we learn to bring our attention to that part of the body when we're seeking that sense of stillness within the movement. training our body, our muscles, our nervous system to allow that process of our attention, smooth passage into that place of quietness and stillness. With this exercise, using that moment of just touching the side of your hips to really reinforce that process. When we turn in the middle of the body, it really affects our whole body, in particular our upper body and our arms. That sideways movement becomes a forwards and backwards movement in our arms, for instance. This is pushing in four directions. Movement out from the center, out from the ground beneath our feet, and back into. Nice, steady, smooth movement. One very common image that we can use, this is though we're moving through water. This offers us an insight into both the quality of the movement, but also the developing resilience within the movement, body, mind, and energy, particularly body and energy. Another image we might bring in is to imagine an elastic band between our hands. Remember, I referred to that elasticity, the soft tissue of the body earlier. This time, letting your hands drop down, and the next feeling of movement, of expansion, let that push one hand up. Once again, it swings up, this time above your body, in line with your nose and your navel, and straight down. Again, the expansion, pushing your arm away, almost like you're standing beneath the arch of an old church door or something, and sliding the palm of your hand around the inside of the arch. And then this time, your hand gets to the top, just turning a little, feeling the expansion in that side of your body. But again, never tight. And then change the other side. Noticing any difference in the movement between one side and another, which is often there. Might feel a bit tighter on one side than another. The movement perhaps doesn't quite coordinate in the same way. With practice, we find that those little things, those little bumps and disconnections begin to smooth out in my experience. And we get more familiar with the sense of the flow of the energy through the body. Once again, adding the turn. Now, sinking down and drop your weight down, and as you push up, just let your hands rise up, smooth circle over, and down. What's happening in your back and your sides as you do this? And this time, be very careful with your back, with your knees as you sink down, pushing your hips back, and that will take your shoulders, your head, and your arms and hands forwards. Your hips drop down, coming back to the upright position and push up. This is called rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. And once again, recognizing the significance of what's happening in that middle part of your body, your hips, your pelvis, the waist. Guiding not just your arms, but your shoulders and your head to the angling posture, and then drawing them back to the upright posture. So you can see the growing significance of that central part of the body. Moving out from your center, back into it. And then as you come up this time, hands palm down in front of your belly, turning. Push your hips back, swim across. Your hips drop down, come back to the center. Drawing your arms around in a nice smooth circle. Go in the other direction. This is called polishing the table. Again, very carefully, very gently, moving as far as you're comfortable. What my hips do here is exaggerated. Then back, turning. So be nice and smooth, don't go too mad with the movement. When I was doing the big movements there, I wanted you to see what's going on, but I was aware that I was in danger of pulling my knees out of line. So don't feel that you have to make big movements. You should always feel that there was space for more movement. So sometimes you might want to do the movement really quite small. And you may find that you actually get a greater insight into what's happening within your body, physically and energetically, with the smaller movements. And perhaps even, as in the way that I described before, actually building those movements. Slight movement in your hips, slight extension in the spine, spaces between the vertebrae, and so on and so forth, all making a contribution to larger movement. Polishing the table. One more each direction. And then some hands. Tai Chi and Qigong are seen as internal arts. We're not purely concerned with the external form. I'm not saying that's not important at all, but also in terms of how those forms are developed, what happens within the body to move our arm. And these are often quite small, subtle movements. And as I said before, quite often those small, subtle movements are the ones more likely to respond to our intentionality. So we are concerned with the exterior movement, of course. That's often the thing that leads us into that awareness, but not purely that. So don't think that all movements have to be done to their maximum range. We want to take care of our bodies. So a movement like one we've just done rowing the boat. If your back's a bit tight, you're not going to want to go too far. But also, the best way to relieve that tightness might be to make small movements and to gradually let the body feel its way into the movement. And as you become more experienced in these arts, you'll realise that there are different ways into the movement. We practice all of these aspects, so we have a variety of means, a variety of approaches that we can use. So once again, changing to the forward stance, turn one foot out, step forward with the other foot. The length is about the same as your width, and once again, transferring your weight, paying a little bit more attention to this process. It comes from the ground, and it comes from that ability to release into the leg, to feel the compression of the leg, and then to feel the expansion that pushes us forwards, backwards. So once again, taking just a moment to settle, don't hurry this process. And particularly new people with this, but also more experienced people, notice whether you're straining in the upper part of your body to try and move. And you want to feel as though your legs, your feet are pushing you forwards and backwards. So nice and loose in the shoulders again, releasing in your shoulders, feeling that support from your back, from your skeleton as you move. And maybe just aware again of moving through water and noticing as your body picks up on that image, how it responds to that, how it stops itself being sort of pushed around by the density of the water and the sensations within the body that those small subtle changes begin to build. So again, this sense of the energy of the movement coming from the ground, rising up, parading through the upper body. Again, looking at this very fundamental movement, weight transfer. Now, when you have weight into your back foot, raise your toes, so a little bit more of your weight settles down in your back foot. Have the front foot turn forward, turned out slightly. In the front leg, push your back knee forwards so that you settle in more. Gradually, with this process, bringing your body more into line with your supporting leg. Trying to keep the pelvis level. Aware that feeling of pull of gravity on your hips. Remember the hips just sinking back very slightly. Not straining against the pull of gravity. Until you feel that you can comfortably just bring one foot in and then push out, put the heel down, lower the ball of your foot, gently press the foot into the floor and move forwards. When you step back, same idea, but it's the ball of your foot that will go down first, then your heel, then the press in. For this planting the foot. Like you sort of positioned a bulb or a seedling, a cutting in a pot, soil, and then gently press it down. Not straining for that. Just to really establish that sense of connection to the ground, the root. Good. And then try the same thing on the other side, turn one foot out a little bit. That angle is you can play about with until it's comfortable. First of all, fixed step, don't rush in to the raising of your toes and your heel. Just establish the dynamic energy or transfer of your weight. Again, you can imagine moving through water. And then beginning to raise toes and heel. If you're watching this on the recording, do this for as long as you like. You can always pause the recording and do a few extra minutes of this very valuable exercise. Try not to tighten in your hips or your knees or your ankles. And then drawing the foot in. Remember, so you're moving through water. Try and step back to the correct position. This time, take a few steps through, forwards or backwards, depending on where you have the room. Trying to plant the foot fully before you transfer your weight. Imagine walking on thin ice and just wanting to test the ice before you commit yourself. And then going back. Good, shake it. Have your right forwards. Bringing the upper body back more actively into this whole process. Now, starting with your weight in your back foot, hold your hands open a bit. Once again, just transferring your weight forwards and backwards. Once again, perhaps imagining this as like a wave of movement of energy flowing upwards from the ground through your body, down in to the ground through your other foot. And this time, from the back foot as you go forwards, letting that wave push your arms forwards and out till your hands separate a little bit, and then coming back. This is called pigeon spreads its wings. So again, that sense of a rising expansion, your belly, solar plexus, your chest, and then contracting, feeling that's a very subtle opening across your back. Straining in your shoulders. Remember, at the end of the movement, you should feel that you could have moved a little bit further comfortably. Pigeon spreads its wings. And then dropping your hands down. This time, your arms straight behind your shoulders until you reach the front leg. Then they swing through. This is fisherman cast net. I mentioned earlier that you could imagine elastic bands between your arms. That sense of elasticity in the tissue of the body. Here, you can imagine the elastic bands from your hips to your wrists. Letting the energy that comes from the ground and the transfer of your weight flow into your upper body and into your arms. And then this time, as you arrive in your front leg, turn to your left. And once again, noticing how that redirects your arms. Going back, letting your hands drop down, settle into your back foot, turn into your right towards. This is wind blows the winds. expanding, contracting, expanding, moving from the ground, moving from the root. Not hurrying, recognizing that in that act of bringing our attention to the ground, to the root, we also have the possibility of just letting go of that urge to rush. So same three exercises. The other foot forward, starting from the parallel stance. Step forward with the left, weight into your back foot. Pigeon spreads its wings, expansion upwards, and forwards through your body, dropping your weight into your front foot here, and then easy. Feeling the changes within your body, front and back, the movements through from front to back and back to front. That bathing, massaging quality. Then fisherman cast the net. Making the change into wind blows the willows as your arms start to swing past your hips and up, just turning to your right. And then in the back foot, turning to your left. We're told in Tai Chi, our movements are rooted in our feet, that feeling of dropping of our center of gravity, the stability and as the source of the rising, expanding movement. Transmitted through our legs, we feel that very clearly, the transfer of our weight from one leg to another. Guided, directed, shaped, to the center of that area between hips and waist, sometimes referred to as the lower Dan Chin. And Chin means something like a field of energy. And all of that expressed through those movements, changes in our upper body, finally our arms. Now combining this with the stepping that we did earlier, as you go into the front foot or into the back foot, depends which way you're going to go. I'm going to go forward, so my back knee bends, my foot comes in, I step, I plant the foot. As I move forwards, dropping my hands. Same thing, hips dropping back, bringing the foot in, planting the foot forwards. And then this time, if I feel okay about this, I'm going to just raise my leg, rotate the hip, feeling my body aligned with the pull of gravity, rooting down, not straining my back or my arms for stability. If you find that you're doing that, best to leave the foot down until you begin to feel the confidence in the structure and root. And then changing direction. Take your time. This dragonfly skims the room. One more time. You have room. And if you want to develop that so that you feel reasonably comfortable standing on one leg, then the best way to do it to begin with, this is how I started with this exercise and others, is just maybe put your hand on a wall or just have some kind of support so that you can begin to work out how you can raise your leg without straining, without wobbling around, and have the confidence to rest into your structure, into the ground, into your root, knowing that you have the support to do that. Much of this is really about being able to once again release, to cease to fight with the pull of gravity. That allows the center of gravity to drop and our body to align. Be patient with that. Don't think that it's all about standing on one leg. It isn't. But just gradually this increased confidence in our body's ability to continue to support us, I think is one of the great takeaways of the art. And that's more important, that you feel that your body can support you on both your legs than it is to be able to stand on one leg. Standing on one leg has very little practical advantage, but if we try to do that, then even if we never manage to stand successfully on one leg, it helps us to feel more confident, more stable, more mobile on two legs, and that's what's important about it. So coming back to the parallel stance for our final exercise, again with the emphasis on this releasing. This is one interpretation of the Chinese term sung. And sung is one of the characteristic qualities of Tai Chi: releasing, yielding to the pull of gravity, calming, letting go of tightness and stiffness within the body, relaxing could be a part of it. So it's central to the whole art. And in many ways, you could argue that it's the art of Tai Chi and Qigong is about being able to develop this quality of song. So just coming back to standing weight a little bit forwards, the emphasis on that release, it's a sinking down. This is an embrace tiger return to the mountain. Pushing up, bringing your hands around, beginning to release in your hips, your back, your shoulders, drawing your hands in, and just allowing gravity to put you down at the top. Finding the root again, feeling the push back up, going back into the expansion. And then again, yielding to the pull of gravity through hips, back, shoulders. And just identifying for yourself what's characteristic about this. Recognizing that returning movement connects body, mind, and energy. It's a return to a sense of stillness, a sense of calmness, as well as to the physical root. What's most likely to help you with that? And again, this can be a useful takeaway, a useful thing to remember later in the day. Embrace tiger, return to mountain. One more round. And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining in and coming along, and hopefully see you soon. Please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. But bye for now. Enjoy the rest of the day.